Today's reading is from Luke 19:10. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost.
Good morning, church. When did his voice get that deep? Wow. That's just scary. He threw me off. So anyway, if I tell you to think about the year 2001, I'm wondering what kind of things might come into your mind. One of them might, I'm sure for a lot of us, is 9/11. That was something that no one will ever forget in 2001. For me personally, there were a couple very new things that happened that year. I bought my first house in 2001. My firstborn son, Aiden, was born in 2001. And I went on my very first mission trip in 2001. And all of those things, not just one of them, I think kicked off a transformative time in my life. And also, in 2001, Jared and Allison Brown moved to Honduras and began working there and just listening to whatever God was going to have them do. And then in 2004, Mission Lazarus was founded. And looking back now, God has done so much. And he's been using Mission Lazarus and Jared Brown to accomplish his will there. During that time, there's now 30 churches that have been planted in southern Honduras. There are medical clinics operating in Honduras. There's 4 different vocational schools. I'm not missing any, right? Four vocational schools. Just a lot is going on. And the Children's Refuge. It's a big, big deal that's going on down there. And God is using Mission Lazarus in a powerful way. So we're really thrilled and happy to have Jared join us this morning. Thank you, brother, for coming. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, church. It's really good to be here. It's good to see some familiar faces and also to feel the warmth of new faces, but yet with friendly smiles. Mark, had no idea you could sing like that. That was amazing. Very, very nice. Very good to be here today. Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. For about the last 250 years, the U.S. church has been going out into the world. 250 years ago is really when the first missionaries from the U.S. church, from Protestant church, evangelical community, began to go out into the world. They were few and far between, but that's kind of when we started sending out people from our land. But it wasn't really till about after World War II that, our young men were coming back from all parts of the globe, and it had our eyes opened up to so much more. So many of these young men came off the farm, came off the heartland in the U.S., and came back recognizing incredible need around the world, but also incredible opportunity to share the good news. After World War II is when some of these large aid organizations, these large Christian nonprofits like World Vision and Compassion International were founded by people whose eyes were opened during the war. But it wasn't until about 25 years ago that this idea of a mission trip came around. But even then, it was kind of this odd thing, and you heard some people doing it. You might have heard it 25 years ago, 20 years ago, but really it wasn't until about 15 years ago that the short-term mission trip started to gain momentum. And now churches all over this country plan annual trips to go all over the globe. And these trips undoubtedly have shaped and blessed the church in the global South. Global South is what we'll refer to is what we used to call the developing nations, but the global South. And it's interesting to see how much these trips have also blessed the church and transformed many lives here in what we'll call the global North. The past 10 years have probably seen more change, both for the good and for the bad, in the global south. In the past 10 years, access to affordable cell phone coverage with internet capability in the global south has become widespread. Where now the people in the global south who always knew that we had it better in the global north, but they didn't really know how much better we had it, thanks to communications giant like one company in particular called Digicel. It's a worldwide telecommunications giant. A farmer in a remote village of Uganda, Haiti, or Honduras on his little cell phone knows what's going on with culture and news around the globe. And they're following it. They're keeping up with it. And thanks to Digicel, that same company, now you can go in rural villages throughout Honduras and you'll see little red satellite dishes stuck to the outside walls of mud huts. And inside that satellite dish is hooked up to a car battery because there's no electricity. And now people are able to track what we would consider our phenomena of pop culture reality shows, where now they're able to enjoy things like Honey Boo Boo and Duck Dynasty, conveniently dubbed by the Learning Channel into French and Spanish. Who wouldn't want to leave the global south when what we're exporting as reality across the globe consists of an absurd country child beauty queen and a couple of bearded camouflaged good old boys? If I'm struggling to survive in Africa, in the war-torn Middle East, or in Latin America, then I want to be a part of this reality that's in the West. Right now, I believe that the world is receiving a wake-up call globally to the dire need faced by millions in the global South, in particular in Africa and in Latin America. Do you know that this year we've seen on the news all this immigrant crisis in Europe? But this year, all the immigrants that will come out of North Africa and they'll cross the Mediterranean, where thousands will die crossing that sea, but out of all those that will enter Italy, 46%, only 46%, less than half of them will not qualify for asylum. Because they're not fleeing war, they're not fleeing conflict, they're not fleeing a force that's attacking their lives, but they are fleeing to save their life because of the economic crisis their countries face. 54% of all of those people entering Europe through Italy this year are economic refugees, and they don't qualify for protective status. But due to the fact that the U.S. is separated by this large body of water, it's really kind of out of sight, out of mind for us, except for maybe 45, 40, 30 seconds on the evening news. But even that has gone away in recent weeks. But we too here in the U.S. are facing a crisis of our own. We've seen an incredible influx of illegal aliens coming across our southern border in the past few years. In 2014, it is estimated that 90,000 unaccompanied minors, 90,000 children without their parents came into the U.S. across our southern border. That's 4 times as many that came in 2013. And according to the Pew Research Center, the overwhelming majority of those children came from Honduras. In the summer of 2014, the crisis was on the evening news daily for many weeks. And it was a wake-up call to us that we have a problem. But it's not a problem that's going to be fixed by politicians or by walls or by border agents or special government aid programs to keep people in their land. But it's a problem that I believe that we as the church in the global north, that we can tackle, that we can address. When Christ offered those words that were read in Luke 19:10 in that beautiful voice this morning, When he speaks to, he came to seek and save the lost, I believe that today for us, that not only speaks to that person, that adulterer, that thief, that murderer that doesn't know Christ yet, but I believe that lost also refers to that person who knows Jesus and knows very well who his Savior is, yet all the same still feels quite lost. Because I believe that many of us as believers have been through moments in our lives where we felt very lost. Perhaps some of us more than others, but lost all the same. The reality is that the global South, with incredible numbers of believers, the global South with a body of believers with a faith that we can hardly ever comprehend, feels oftentimes very lost. Mission Lazarus over the past 15 years has focused on reaching the lost, reaching the ones who don't know Christ, who've not had an opportunity to know who their Savior is, but also to reach the ones who know Him yet still feel lost. We've done this through an emphasis on sustainability. Sustainability is a really big word, and when it's used in the ministry arena, it has a complex meaning. Here's how Mission Lazarus, just how we view sustainability. We view it first of all through local leadership that's been developed, that is not dependent on American missionaries to guide them every day and every week in the year. And today, Mission Lazarus has over 100 staff members in Honduras alone. And they are led by 10 passionate believers, 10 directors, 10 area managers who lead that ministry and who are Central Americans. Secondly, we view sustainability by churches that are self-governing, that are self-propagating, and that have a leadership that believes in a vision to reach the lost with grace. To date, we've planted nearly 30 churches in Honduras, and that's not happening because there was an American going into the village to preach every Sunday. Early on, maybe the first half dozen churches, there was an American around who helped get those going and helped share that message. And American in a village in the back of a pickup truck who speaks the language can draw a big crowd, but that's not sustainable. But those early churches have caught that fire, and now they're planting churches. And it's really spread like wildfire. Finally, the third way we view sustainability is financial sustainability. Mission Lazarus, as Jason mentioned, it's really phenomenal what God has done, and we've been blessed with some incredible resources over the years. We try to take advantage of those resources in every way we can to reach the lost. Through our social enterprise endeavors, which include farming, ranching, timber production, artisan leather goods, which you saw up front this morning. In 2014 alone, we were able to generate over $500,000 of revenue that was put directly back into the ministry. And at the same time, it was revenue that was generated while providing employment in employment-deprived communities. Sustainability is what drives all of our efforts. And the big question I hear a lot is, when are these churches going to be self-sustainable? When are they going to cover everything on their own? And that's a great question. In order for us to have self-sustaining churches, they have to have members who have sustainable income in them. In Honduras, a family can not only survive, but can thrive on merely $350 a month. $350 a month is the government-established minimum wage. With $350 a month, no one's risking their life headed to the north in search of a better way of living. Even though that's the government's established minimum wage, there are very, very few opportunities to earn $350 a month in Honduras, especially once you get outside of the major cities. No one's getting rich with $350 a month, but they are able to provide for the basic needs of their family. And they are able to think about a future for their family. $350 doesn't sound like much, but in rural Central America, $350 allows a family to feel hope. Our vocational schools focus on young men and women that have finished the 6th grade. 6th grade is when the Honduran government considers a child educated. You're done after 6th grade. And when they come in, they're able to learn their trade, they get their junior high education, and then we're able to offer them a job when they graduate. The skills that in particular the young men in our leather shop are learning are amazing. And now graduates of the 9th grade, graduates of our vocational school, at 16, 17, 18 years old, are earning minimum wage. That's more money than their parents have ever seen in a month in their lives. I believe that as American Christians, we can shape the world by supporting endeavors like this. We're not going to make the world look like the United States, but we can sure make sure the world has the basic needs covered to survive. Because the days of giving aid away as a ministry initiative are long gone. They're just not effective. They don't work. The days of sharing the good news with a message of condemnation, it doesn't work. The days of preaching the Sermon on the Mount and then getting to that very last part, it says, don't worry about what you're going to eat, drink, or wear, but look at Solomon with all of his splendor, they're not even the lilies of the field. Compare. Solomon couldn't compare to the lilies of the field, but look, the lilies of the field, they're here today and they're cut down and they're thrown in the fire. But look at you, aren't you worth so much more? Seek first the kingdom of God and everything else will be given to you. If I'm in a little hut in a village in the jungle, and those words are preached to me to try to encourage me, I'm sitting there thinking, that's great. That's great for Solomon. That's great for those pretty lilies. But my kids are hungry, my baby's sick, and my house leaks like a sieve. The days of preaching the Sermon on the Mount and giving those promises without the fulfillment of those promises are long gone. We've been found out, folks. Our wealth, our opportunity, our comfort is now known worldwide. And folks, the world is coming for it. It's so hard for us to understand the complex struggle in Latin America, in Africa, in the Middle East, of people wanting something better. And us wanting to protect a lifestyle that we didn't just have fall in our laps, a lifestyle that we've worked for in the U.S. But it can be done. In August of last year, I was riding in Honduras in my truck. My children were in the back seat. My children do one-day ministry every week when we're in country. And they're in the back seat, and I was on the phone, and I was on hold. And I overheard my children in the back seat. They didn't know I was listening in. They thought I was on the phone. I overheard my son and my daughter, who are both born in Honduras. They have dual citizenship. They have a Honduran passport and U.S. passport. They don't understand all the time what all that means. But I overheard my children laughing back and forth. Mommy and Poppy are Americans. How could it be that my kids are, if Honduras is so horrible and everybody wants to get out of Honduras and get to the U.S., how can it be that my children are just as proud as their Honduran identity as they are their American identity, and on some days, even more proud of it? Well, it's because they've been offered a lifestyle where they feel safe and protected. When they're sick, they get medicine, they get education, and they're provided an environment where they can dream about a future instead of worrying about what they're going to survive on today. Contrary to what some believe, no law, no wall, no armed guards will prevent the desperate from coming to find hope. But we, the American church, we can do something. Capitalism is a beautiful thing. It's one of the principles that has allowed our country to become what it is. But capitalism left unchecked has devastating effects far beyond our borders, far beyond what we can see. The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 10:23 said that all things are permitted, yes, but not all things are beneficial. I have a business degree. I'm a business guy. I'm an entrepreneur who happened to end up in ministry. I love business. I love capitalism. But I think that we need to apply Paul's words to capitalism. Just because Gildan, a huge t-shirt company, just because they can pay factory workers in Honduras incredibly low wages to make t-shirts, doesn't mean it's right. And us as ministry leaders, us as members of the church in the U.S., just because we can hire people to work for us in our ministries for miserable salaries and justify it by saying it's all that we can do, does not mean that it's right. As Christians in America, we can shape the world starting right here in King of Prussia. Not through more relief aid programs, not through immigration reform, not through traditional mission efforts, but by using the entrepreneurial gifts and the business skills that our country is truly blessed with, so that we can track effectiveness in our ministry initiatives. A lot of money gets thrown down the drain every year in ministry because we don't track effectiveness. We can use those skills to set up a structure that invites transparency and accountability. A lot of money gets thrown down the drain every year because we don't use those principles that we hold so close to our heart in the U.S., in the business world. We don't apply them in ministry. And we can use those skills to create jobs that can be used as business, as ministry, and at the same time are sustainable overseas. Not just sustainable for us and our bottom line in the U.S., but sustainable for our employees overseas. There's not one person on staff at Mission Lazarus that earns less than minimum wage, including our ranch hands, mechanics, maintenance guys, young artisans in our leather shop. They're not building 3,000 square foot homes. They're not dreaming of an extra car or a third car. They're not thinking about the latest smartphone and the latest apps for their kids. They're not going to lunch at McDonald's. But the reality is, they don't want that either. They want to provide a safe home for their family, and they're doing that. They want to provide food for their family, and they're doing that. They want to provide medical care for their family, and they're doing that. They want to provide education for their family, they're doing that. They want to be active members of their churches with the ability to give back a tithe of what God has given them, and they're doing that. You all remember the story of the prodigal son? When he gets to the bottom, he's in that pig pen, he starts reflecting back on his dad and his dad's farm. He remembers that even his dad's ranch hands, if you read it, he remembers his dad's farm help had more food on their tables than they can eat. Luke 15:17. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death." The culture and the economy of the global South is remarkably similar to the culture and the economy from 2,000 years ago when Christ walked on this earth. It's remarkably similar. And I'm going to tell you, you won't find a ranch hand in the global South in 2015. You won't find a farm worker. You won't find a servant whose family has more food than they can eat in the global South. Yet, they pick the watermelons that we eat, they pick the bananas that we enjoy, they cut the avocados that we love. Indirectly, folks, indirectly, church, these people work for us. Mission Lazarus is transforming and growing the kingdom in Honduras by combining sustainable ministry initiatives with sustainable leadership formation and sustainable business development. But I believe that there is more to be done. I believe that what we're doing is only a drop in the bucket. Here today we have community leaders, we have business owners, and we have ministry trailblazers here today in this group of people. Together we can affect change in the kingdom from right here in Philadelphia, throughout the world, with how we approach ministry moving forward. And I believe that KOP has the ideas to get it done. I believe that KOP has the people to get it done. And I believe that KOP has a commitment to excellence to get it done. The Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. He called us, He has equipped us, and He has empowered us to see that mission through. I invite you all to become active in exploring ways that we can and that we will see that mission through without perhaps ever leaving this part of our country, but by challenging our body and challenging the future of our church to do more, to do better, and to believe that God will bless us until He returns. God bless you all this morning.